We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 80a. And the previous Amud, the Mishnah generally said, if you have a situation where it's clear that young children are following a particular woman, that is their mother, so once you verify the lineage of the mother, you don't need to verify the lineage of the children. It is obvious from the way that they're behaving that this is their mother. And Reish Lakish now says on the Mishnah, Lo shanu ela b'kadshe hagavul. This idea that if they're following the mother, we assume that that's really their mother, that's only in terms of what we call kadshe gavul. Rashi will explain in a moment. Avol b'yuchsin lo, but when it comes to yichus, when it comes to actual lineage, we don't rely on the fact, just because they're following this particular woman, we don't automatically assume in terms of yichus that this is their mother. Rabbi Yochanan says, Afilu b'yuchsin, it's not true, it goes even further. Even with regards to yuchsin, we assume that this is their mother. And Rashi explains, Lo shanu desamchina nakruchin. We don't learn this halach in the Mishnah that we rely on the fact that they're following this particular woman, ela lekadshe hagvul, only in terms of kadshe hagvul, meaning, im koenu, let's say the situation over here is that this individual, or we're talking about people that are kohanim, so ochlim bekadshe hagvul, so then they're allowed, these children are allowed to eat kadshe hagvul, essentially they're allowed to eat truma or other items that are eaten, that are kohanim eat outside of the Beis HaMikdash, they're allowed to eat that. Once we prove that this particular woman, this mother, is qualified for the kuna, she's not disqualified, so then so then all the children that follow her as well, lomar boneh, we say that that's really her children, and they're not considered chalalin, they can have kadshe hagvul, they can have truma. But Reish Lakish says, but when it comes to yichus, so im yesh bahen banos, let's say you have a situation where there are daughters, there are girls over here, kohanim, they cannot marry kohanim unless they prove that they're actually the daughters of this particular mother. They have to prove that. Otherwise, we say they haven't proven their lineage. They cannot marry kohanim, according to Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says, it's not true. Even for yichus, samchina nachazaka shein kruchen achareh. According to Rabbi Yochanan, we do follow the chazaka that they seem to be following this particular woman, that this is their mother. We follow that even for yuchsin. And the Gemara continues, V'azder Rabbi Yochanan l'taime. Rabbi Yochanan over here was saying that even for yichus, this is effective to follow the chazak of kruchen achareha. He follows his opinion in another context. The Yamar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Chia bar Abba said that Rabbi Yochanan said, Malkin ala chazakos, that we give malchus when it comes to chazaka. Soklin v'sarfin ala chazakos, based on a chazaka, you can give skila, you can give sreifa. Ve'ein sarfin truma ala chazakos, but you're not allowed to burn truma based on a chazaka. And Rashi says, V'azder Rabbi Yochanan l'taime, Rabbi Yochanan follows his reasoning, means to say as follows. The Yomar samchina na chazaka. Again, Rabbi Yochanan is saying, we follow this chazaka. Shehuchzaku likare chetzla, this chazaka that they're following her, it shows a presumption that this is their mother. Bechezkas sheimo, it seems that this is their mother. Afilu le'inyan dina nefashas. The point over here is, Rabbi Yochanan said, we rely on chazaka even for capital punishment. That's what it means when he says, Soklin v'sarfan ala chazakas. Chazaka is strong enough that we would give skila, we would give sreifa based on a chazaka, lisaka v'lisarev zal zeked al kaman, as we're going to give examples later on, and therefore if we're going to rely on chazaka for skila and sreifa, v'kol shekain l'yuchsin l'hechsher kuna, certainly when it comes to yichus, to say that this girl is allowed to marry a kohen, certainly we would rely on chazaka. The point is, if Rabbi Yochanan is willing to follow chazaka when it comes to skila and sreifa, he would certainly follow chazaka when it comes to yichus. And again, there were three comments here made by Rabbi Yochanan. One is that we give malchus based on chazaka. One is that we give skila and sreifa based on chazaka. And the final one is that we don't rely on chazaka when it comes to burning truma. Now Rashi says malkan al chazakas. In terms of the first one, we give malchus based on chazaka. Al davar shanu machzikim kain v'afilu ein edus b'davar. The point is, even if you have no testimony, but you have a chazaka that something is true, and that leads to the conclusion that someone should get malchus, we give malchus. Sarfim b'soklin k'nim afarish l'vazal. We're going to give examples of sreifa and skila when it comes to chazaka. However, ve'in sarfin truma la chazakas. Just because you have a chazaka about, let's say, food, we're not allowed to burn truma. And Rashi explains, davar shu tamei mitoch chazaka. Let's say you have a situation of there's a chazaka that this item is tamei. V'lo mitoch shu raya. You don't have like a raya. V'naga b'truma, and then this thing with the chazaka touches truma. Tigon tinok. For example, let's say you have a child. Shu stama muchzak tamei. We assume we have a chazaka that the child is tamei. Shemachapes biashba sheisham nevelo sushratza shrotzim, because he's always touching things in the garbage with nevelos and shrotzim. V'naga b'truma, and then this child touches truma, ein sarfin. So there, as Rabbi Yochanan says, we don't burn that item that he touched. We don't know for sure that it's tamei. Elatolin, rather it's the status of what we call tolin. It's suspended. We're not sure whether it's tamei or tar. Because on the other hand, this dough has a chazaka that it was pure. And again, maybe this is one of the few tinokos that is not actually tamei, and so therefore when it comes to burning truma based on a chazaka, that Rabbi Yochanan does not say. And the Gemara now explains the three statements of Rabbi Yochanan. Again, malkan al chazakas, you give malchus for a chazaka. What's an example of that? Rav Yehuda, that follows what Rav Yehuda said. Diyamar Rav Yehuda said, huchzaka nida b'shchenosel. Let's say among the neighbors there's a chazaka that this particular woman is a nida. They recognize the way she's dressing. She's dressing like a nida. As Rashi says, there are certain big day nidusa, there are certain clothing that the nida wears, and there's a chazaka that she's a nida. So then, ba'ala loka alem misham nida, the husband is going to get malchus. Let's say he was together with her, we'll use that chazaka and we'll say that the husband violated this prohibition and he's going to get malchus based on that chazaka because of nida, because of the nida violation. So that's the explanation of the first case. Soklin v'sarfan al chazakas, you have skila and sreifa based on chazaka. That's the following case. Kid Rabba bar Rav Huna, it's like Rabba bar Rav Huna said, Yama Rabba bar Rav Huna, because Rabba bar Rav Huna said, Ish v'isha tinok v'tinokas. Let's say you have a man and a woman and then a young boy and a young girl, shigdilu b'soch habayis, they all grew up in the same house. So it's like a chazaka that this is a father, a mother, and the son and their daughter. So niskol and zalzev and nisraf and zalzev, let's say they're together with one another, the mother is with the son, has relations, or the father with the daughter, they're going to get skila and sreifa, essentially, based on that chazaka. And Rashi explains, niskol and zalzev, what would be a case of skila? In boha ben ala isha, let's say the son is with his mother, so that's a case of skila. Niskal haben alem misham bo alimo. You get skila because of having relations with one's mother. V'yolav, she also would get that skila. V'nisraf and zalzeh, or you can have a case of sreifa, that would be in boha ish alabas, when a man is with the daughter, so that's a violation that gets a punishment of sreifa. The halach is the bito b'sreifa. The halach is that the daughter gets sreifa. So those are examples where we use chazaka to give skila and sreifa. And again, because Rabbi Yochanan says that we even go so far as to give skila and sreifa, so he would also say that chazaka is enough in terms of yuchsin, as we said above. Again, that's the case of Niskol and Zalzev and Nisraf and Zalzev. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi says that Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, Mishum bar kapara, in the name of bar kapara, Ma'isa b'isha shabos li Yerushalayim, there was an incident where a woman came to Yerushalayim, V'tinok murchav lo al kseifa, and there was a child on her shoulders, V'gdilas, when she raised him, U'ba'aleh, and then she had relations, he had relations with her, V'heviyum lebezdin, and they brought them to Bezdin, U'skolim, and they gave them skila, Lo mipnei shebenov vada, it's not because he was certainly, they didn't verify 100% that this was her son, Elam mipnei shekarach achareh, but rather it was because he was karach achareh, he followed after her, he acted as her child, and so therefore you have an example of exactly this situation. That chazaka made an assumption that we do assume that in fact this was mother and son, and we gave the punishment of skila in that situation. And finally, the last case of Rabbi Yochanan, ve'ein sarfen truma ala chazakas, it said that we don't burn truma based on a chazaka. Again, that's a situation where you have truma, and based on a chazaka, we would assume that this truma became tamei, but Rabbi Yochanan says we wouldn't burn truma because of that. And there we actually have a machlokas amoraim. Dam Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says sarfen ala chazakas. You actually would burn truma based on a chazaka. Rabbi Yochanan Omer ain't sarfen, but Rabbi Yochanan says you don't burn truma based on a chazaka. And the Gemara says v'yazul tamayu. The Gemara says that Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, they actually follow their reasoning, what they stated in another context. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, tinok shenimtza b'tzad ha'isa, case essentially like Rashi mentioned earlier. Let's say you have a situation of a child by dough, ubatzik biyado, he's holding some of the dough. Rabbi Meir mitar, Rabbi Meir says in that case it's tar. The chacham mitamin, but the chachamim say it's tamei. Why? Mibnei shedarko shel tinok l'tapeach, because it's the way of a child l'tapeach, meaning again the child is playing in the garbage, touches things that are tamei, and that's why the chachamim say that you assume tuma. You assume that it's tamei, you assume tuma in this situation. And the Gemara continues, V'havinan ban, we asked on this particular Mishnah, my taimei de Rabbi Meir, what's the reason of Rabbi Meir? We understand the chachamim that the dough is considered tamei because that's the way of the child, that the child is tamei, but what's the reason of Rabbi Meir that Rabbi Meir says tar? Kasavar, and the reason is because Rabbi Meir holds rov tinokos metafchen. There is a rov. There's a majority of tinokos that they do play in the garbage. They become tamei. Umiyot ein metafchen, but there's a minority of them that don't do that. V'isa bechezkas taro medis, and also the dough has a chazaka, as a presumption that it's pure. V'samach miyuta lechazaka. Therefore, you have the minority of children that are actually tar. Place that next to the chazaka that the dough is tar. Israel eruba, and therefore the rov, it's like it doesn't count. V'rabbanan, but the rabbanan responds to Rabbi Meir, miyuta commanda lesei dami, a miyut, that's like nothing, and therefore it's ruba v'chazaka. You have a rov against the chazaka. There's a chazaka that it's pure, but there's a rov. The majority of the children are tamei, and therefore ruba adif. Therefore the majority is the one that is going to win out. And the Gemara continues that on this Mishnah where the Chachamim say that the dough is tamei, there's a machlokes Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. V'yam Reish Lakish mishum Rabbi Yoshia, and Reish Lakish says in the name of Rabbi Yoshia, Zu hisha sarfen aleh asat truma. In this case, we would even go so far as to burn the truma. Let's say it's a situation where the dough is truma. We have a chazaka now that it's tamei, and based on that chazaka, we would actually burn the truma. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees, and he says, Ein zu chazaka shesarfen aleh truma. This is not a chazaka where we would go so far as to say that we would burn truma. That we would not do based on the chazaka. So you see the same machlokas, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, in this context. Ela ezu chazaka Rabbi Yochanan shesarfen aleh as a truma. But the Gemara says, what would be an example of a chazaka where we would, based on that chazaka, we would burn truma? That would be as follows: Kidditnan, as we learned in the Mishnah. And the Mesorah Hashas changes this from Kidditnan to Kidditanya, as we learned in the following brayso: Isa besoch habayis, if you have dough in the house, ushrotzim utzvardim metaflan sham, you have shrotzim and you have frogs in the house. Shrotzim are tamei, but tzvardim, frogs, are tahar. V'nimtzu chatichos beis, and you find cut up creatures inside the dough, and we want to know, are these shrotzim, are these tzvardim, is it tamei or is it tahar? Imrov shrotzim tameya. So if the majority of the creatures in the house are shrotzim, then it's tamei. Imrov tzvardim tahar, but if the majority of the creatures in the house are frogs, so then it's pure. Essentially, we follow rov. And the Gemara is saying that according to Rabbi Yochanan, when it comes to this kind of a rov, we would even say that we burn the truma in this case. We would assume 100% that it's actually truma tamei, and we would burn it. And the difference is that this case is what we call, as Rashi explains, this is what we call a ruba di isa kamon. You have a situation where there's a bunch of creatures, and the majority of the creatures in the house are going to be shrotzim. So in such a situation, there we assume 100% that it's tamei, and we even burn it. Let's say it's truma tameya. But when it comes to the earlier case of the child, that's a statistical rov. It's what we call a ruba de lesa kamon. Most children are tamei statistically, and that kind of a rov is not strong enough, according to Rabbi Yochanan, to burn truma, again, in that situation. And the Gemara continues, Tanya Kivasi de Rabbi Yochanan. We have a brayso that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Rashi explains, Kivasi de Rabbi Yochanan do amar metamin de Rabbanan lislos, like Rabbi Yochanan, who says that when the Rabbanan say something is tamei, it just means lislos, it just means it's suspended in that state. It's like a suffix tuma, but we wouldn't go so far as to burn it. Let's say it was a situation dealing with truma. Again, this is going on the earlier case. Let's say you have a child that's holding a piece of dough, and there's another larger piece of dough next to that. So again, we said over there that the presumption is the child is tamei and the dough is tamei, but that chazaka and that halachic psak, that dough is tamei, that does not go so far as to say that if that dough was truma tameya, we would actually burn it. It's still a situation of doubt. We're not 100% sure that it's actually tamei. We have a brayso that supports that ruling of Rabbi Yochanan. The brayso says, Shnei devarim, there are two situations, ein bohem das lishol, where we can't ask the party involved. The person's not able to clarify it, or the creature is not able to clarify it, as we'll see. V'asom chachamim k'mashe yesh b'hem das lishol, but the chachamim treat the case as if we were able to ask. The halacha here is, as Rashi explains, k'mishe yesh das lishol, as if we're talking about someone that we can ask. The kaimel and the halacha is as follows. That if you have a situation, let's say involving an adult, where in theory you can ask an adult what happened, and if the adult knows what happened, he's able to tell you what happened. The halach is when you have a tumah of that kind in Rishus HaYachid, so if it's a situation of doubt in Rishus HaYachid, we say tamei. This is learned out from Sota, because we learn out from Sota, just like by Sota, Rishus HaYachid, the suffix is tamei, so too in any situation, just like the Sota is an adult, it's someone that we can ask what happened, so too anytime you have a situation of suffix tumah involving an adult, where in theory you can ask them, even though it's a case of suffix, they're not able to answer, they happen not to be able to know. But again, since it's learned from Sota, it's similar to that case.
all cases in Rishus HaYachid involving an adult that you're able to ask for clarification, the halacha is, if you have a situation of doubt, even if you've asked, the adult doesn't know, you have a situation of doubt, we say tameh. The halacha happens to be dividavar she'ein bo das lishal. If let's say it would involve an animal or a child, something that you're not able to ask, kaimulan da'afilu b'rishus hayachid tzveik otar. There we're actually lenient. We don't learn out from Sota. There we say that even in Rishus hayachid you have a situation of doubt. We say that it's tahar. So the Bryce is saying there are two cases actually where we say that even though it's something that you can't ask, but we're machmir. What are the two cases? Tinok v'od acheres. One case is the case of the child. That's the case that we just had above with the child and the doe. And also there's one other case. And the Gemara says, Tinok hadiyam. In the case of the child, that's the case that we just had above. The child is beside the doe, and you're saying that the child is most likely tameh, therefore the doe is tameh. Even though you're not able to ask the child, we still say in Rishus HaYachid, in the case of a doubt, that the doe is going to be tameh. V'od acheres. There's also one other case, Maihi. What is that other case? The case is as follows. Isa b'zoch habayis, let's say you have dough inside the house, v'tarnagolim umashkim tameim sham, and you have chickens over there, you also have drinks that are tamei, v'nimtzu, and then it turns out, you find out, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Pei Amud Beis.